I wanted to talk a little bit too, if I have a little more time, about this. 5 more minutes of talking, or 5 more minutes?
5 more minutes of talking.
Okay. Yeah. Being a Southern writer, I mean, I do think that there are things that separate us from other writers. But as Pam said, we're more alike than we are different. We all know that. So in a way, this thing of what's a Southern writer is a kind of game that we play, because we know that we share the big things with all fiction writers. I think that we are more alike than we are different. Alan Greganis told me that, and I agree with him, that writing is really fairly easy. And he said all you need is a little language, we all have that, a little laughter, and a little love. And I think I would add another L, a little lunacy. Because if you're completely sane, you're not writing. If you're completely sane, you're a lawyer or a doctor or a real estate broker or something. Because there's something a little bit odd about spending your life alone and spinning tales. I love the story about Eudora Welty, who was accused of being an outsider. Robert Penwarren's wife, Eleanor Tate, I think was her name. They were both Southerners, but Eleanor said to Eudora, "How does it feel to be an outsider and become an acclaimed Southern writer when you're really from Ohio?" Well, Eudora Welty's parents were from Ohio, and Eudora said, "But I was born in Mississippi." And Eleanor Tate said, "Yeah, well, our cat had kittens in the summer house oven last year, and that didn't make them biscuits, did it?" Sometimes we're a little bit strict when we define what it takes to be a Southern writer. And we've talked a lot about the South changing and new people coming in, and is the South going to stay the same? Is our writing going to change, or our culture? I read a really interesting essay one time that essentially explained that an invading army invades and then occupies a country and eventually adopts the culture of the invaded country. And I can see that on my street. People have moved in from Philadelphia, New York, Ohio, California, and they're having oyster roasts, and they're singing the music and doing the Southern thing. And their accents change. I think, in fact, if you listen to the accents of Northerners and measured it against how they sounded 50 years ago, you'll find they sound a lot more Southern now. I think our accent is changing theirs more. Because we've had so many Southern presidents, I think that makes a difference too in the spreading of the Southern sound. Let's see, a good Jill McCorkle story. This used to be a bigger problem than it is now, because now there are some Southern copy editors at New York publishing houses. But when she and I were first starting out, all the copy editors, that is the person who reads your manuscripts and marks things that need to be changed, that are incorrect, grammar or geography or something, or continuity problems, will mark something wrong in the margin and send it back to you, and you're supposed to change it. And in Jill's manuscript, there was a man who said something like, "I might could lend you $20. And the copy editor wrote a little note on the side and said, would an educated person, even a Southerner, talk this way?" And Jill didn't change it. She wrote back another note that said, "He might would." And then Lee Smith, I heard Lee Smith say that she sent in a manuscript that said, Vernon bought himself a new double wide. And the copy editor wrote, "Double wide what?" bad, and many more that have been good. Among the bad, would count a talk I gave at the Nashville Writers Conference in the War Auditorium, which is the hugest auditorium I've ever been in, on that Capitol Plaza. Have any of you all been in that place? It's just cavernous. And it must hold 1,000 people. And I went to give my talk, and there were 10 people in that row, including my husband, my editor, my agent, and a couple of friends, and their relatives, I think. And it was just, I was a fairly new writer, and it was just scary and embarrassing. But I went ahead with it and started talking, and I noticed some people coming in late. So I thought, okay, well, this is going to be all right. And then more and more people came in, and I thought maybe I started early. And then there were huge numbers of people coming in. I thought, is word spreading? I don't know. What is going on? And then somebody walked up on the stage and said, excuse me, I hate to interrupt you, but I just want to give everybody a message. And she looked at it, she said, y'all, just wait. Jimmy and Rosalind are going to be here right after this speaker gets off the stage. So I made way for President Trump. Got off the stage. But what I love about being a Southern writer is the community of Southern writers and people like Nancy Olson. It's hard to put into words what Nancy has done for us, but we all know it, and she has just a really special place in our hearts. She's the kind of person that you can tell, Nancy's kind of transparent. The first time I met her, I thought, she really loves books, and she really loves writers. And it's so great to have that. I love other Southern writers as well, and have made really good friends with them. I think there is a community of Southern writers, because you can go into a store like Nancy's and you can say, do you have Lee's latest novel? And you don't have to say the last name. Do you have Pat's latest novel? Do that in South Carolina. And everyone knows who you're talking about. It's great for me because of the loneliness and the isolation of writing. I've actually lost a lot of my old friends because I don't have time to keep up with them. Some of them, the most faithful, have remained faithful, and others have just moved on. And I also appreciate, I don't know whether they have this in the other parts of the country or not, but I love Southern women's book clubs. They are the best readers. They are incredible readers. They consistently read good books. They study them. They remember them. They're eager for new books. And Lord knows they buy a lot of books. One time I was invited to come talk to a men's book club in Charleston. And I went there, and they were meeting in a law firm office, and they had this round, big mahogany table, and everybody sitting around the table. And I said, gosh, I just have to congratulate you all, because I have never seen a men's book club before. I didn't know there was such a thing. And most of them were lawyers, and the president of the club said, well, you're right, we are a men's book club this week because you said you'd come talk to us, but last month we were a wine tasting. Flannery O'Connor, I think it was Flannery O'Connor, some of these quotes get sort of passed around, and I'm never really sure who said what, but I think it was Flannery O'Connor who said, how can I know what I think until I read what I wrote? Which when I first saw that, I thought, that's it. That's what I do. And I have to actually do the writing before I know what the work is, or where I'm going, or what I'm thinking. I have not been writing this year. A year and a half ago, my mother died, and my sisters and I had been caring for her. She was in hospice care for 6 months, which is longer than hospice agrees to take care of somebody. So it was just a really long, bad dying, and she was in and out of clarity. She would have some lucid moments, and then she'd be gone again. But the day before she died, she said, "Okay, everybody come in here, I have something to say." And we all, perked up, and she sounded rational, and we went in. And she was looking right at me. She said, "I want you to do something for me, and this is really important." I said, "We will, Mom." And she said, "I want you to find the Book of Truth." Okay. And she said, "And then destroy it." So I still don't know what that means, but I love it, and I'm going to try to do it. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
This isn't a question, but
Yeah.
it's a comment. I think I saw this in a gift shop or in a magazine, that there's this whole set of, like, maybe T-shirts and those parts about Northerners or people from away from the South that said, "I am not from around here, but I got here as fast as I could." And I think there are a lot of people who feel that way.
Well,
So I think that's a welcoming way of thinking.
Yeah, I think it is, and it's been a huge influx in South Carolina. I don't know if you've had the same thing, but just I'm an oddity now, having been born in Charleston, being a native. There are not very many of those. My dad lives with us now, and he has Alzheimer's, so he might not remember something from day to day. But what comes back to him is stories. And so I spend a good bit of time every day just sitting and listening to him tell a lot of jokes, most of them dating back to 1930, I think, maybe even from his childhood earlier. Some war stories, all kinds of stuff. And it's always in the form of a narrative, or, did I ever tell you about it? And it's always a story. And that's fascinating to me, that story is the thing that remains. Even when sometimes he's not real sure who I am, he'll remember a story. And I think that's important for us to notice and remember that, because I think we actually, for some reason, need stories. I think of it as a need for meaning, and a narrative structure is a way that kind of organizes experience and sheds some light on what might be possible meanings for us, so that we can view our lives as having some significance. But I don't really know why, but I do think we have a hunger and a need for stories. Yeah.
So a question of curiosity, going back to your student story where you graded them by their names, did any of the B students ever become famous writers?
Wait, let me actually think about that, because I have had students who've been successful, but this was what I loved to teach, and what I taught for most of the time that I was at this college was remedial English. I had an amazing bunch of kids. Well, they weren't all kids, but mainly I had 3 categories of students. Black students from inner city high schools, white kids from farms, and older people going back to school for the first time, had been in the Army or something like that. And I like those students because they are highly motivated, and they'll be there every time, all 3 groups of students. I occasionally do teach writing. I taught at Davidson College first semester. I taught at University of Richmond first semester, but then I go back home. Thank you very much.